Welcome to the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage, where rude mechanicals do magic. Hello, I'm Bronze Age, Director of the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage. And today we're at the BF bench with a gate leg table where one side has come apart. Like a lot of furniture, the gate leg table serves double duty. You've got a nice dining table, and then when dinner is over, you simply fold the leaves down, and you can put this against the wall where it won't take up much room. It's a design that first appeared in the 1500s. This motif on here is called barley twist, and barley is a plant, a grain, but it's not named after the plant. Apparently what they would do is when they would boil the barley, there'd be a lot of stock or broth left over. They'd dump in some sugar and boil it until it crystallized, pull it out, and then twist it. And a hard candy was known as barley twist. And then that became a popular decor on furniture. Now, I'm not really sure how old this table is. It could be early 1900s, even before that. But these score marks right here indicate that the mortise, the area that's cut out so this hinge will lay flat, they show that this was cut out by hand with a saw and a chisel. So even though it definitely was made in a furniture mill, there was still a good bit of handwork done in those days. Now, there's always something interesting when you're working on old furniture. If you notice these screws here, they don't seem to be straight. Both of them are cocked at a slight angle, and that's because this hinge is on upside down. On the bottom side, the holes have a bevel called a countersink, so that the screw will go down flush, and that's been put down. And I'm not going to do anything about that because there's a third screw underneath here, and I don't want to take the whole table apart. The joint here is called a rule joint. It's this curve. There's a complementary curve on the tabletop, and what that does, it allows you to have a folding seam that fits very tight against the table. And then besides that, most of the weight is taken up by this ridge here, taking the stress off the hinges. Now, the main concern when you're repairing a tabletop is that it be flat. And the seam, where it's split, goes back together fairly well, but it's never going to be perfect. There's too much tearing and losing of splinters and chips and stuff like that. But this is pretty close. In order to keep it flat, I'm going to clamp it down to this pair of levels. Ideally, I'd want to have a clamp that would reach out into the middle here, but don't have anything like that in this shop. Next, I've got to get this thing squeezed together as tight as practical. And for that, I've made a couple of custom clamp fittings. Going like this, and this little wooden clamp here acting as a dog, holding it down together, and hope I can get this tight enough that it's not going to slip. But I don't really have to squeeze this thing until it screams. I've just got to close this up long enough for the glue to set. This is the dry fit, which is really the most important part of the job, because when you're gluing up something like this where it has to be straight and it has to be flat, if a clamp's not working after you've got the glue on it, that really is not the best time to be solving that sort of a problem. So now it's all glued together, and I've wiped up as much of the squeeze out as I could find. It's going to sit overnight, and we're going to go on to phase 2 of putting this back together a little stronger than it was before. I'm going to say that worked out the way I expected it to. The reason this failed is pretty much just simple physics. This piece is made up of 1, 2, 3, 4 separate boards, and they're glued together at the edges. And that much surface area for the glue versus this long lever trying to break it apart, sooner or later something's going to go. And even though this is a glue joint, it wasn't actually the glue that failed, because I could tell from how ragged the break was. What actually happened was the layer of wood just below the glue came loose. It's like they always talk about the glue being stronger than the wood. That is not really that great an advantage, because you still end up breaking anyway. So what we're going to do is we're going to put some crossways braces in here to make this joint a little stronger, so this inherently weak spot in the wood where it peeled loose is going to be reinforced. I'm going to use the router to make the groove. I've got a base plate on here which is made to take this brass guide bushing. The outside diameter there is exactly 1 inch. I've got a 3/4 inch bit, and to keep this thing under control, I've got this template made so that the bushing stays like that, and when I've got this fastened down, I'll be able to make a nice straight consistent groove through the bottom side of the tabletop. Now for this kind of work, it's absolutely critical that the template doesn't move. And I'm going to take advantage of the fact that nobody looks at the bottom side of tabletops, and I can fasten the template to with screws, which in this case much better than, certainly easier than trying to figure out a way to clamp this down like this. Now I've got a perfectly flat, straight groove, 1/4 inch deep. Move this template over 2 more times. Be ready to start gluing it back together. Now I can go look through the scrap bin, find a small piece of oak I can use to make these patch pieces. Now jobs like this show why it's important to have a good scrap pile. This is a piece of oak, all that's left of a commercial sign that I think I salvaged from a dumpster. And I was able to cut this piece out of it, which is going to make all 3 of these splices. I'm going to let this sit a couple hours, and then I'll be able to put the table back together. I've had a day to consider the mystery of why the hinges are upside down, and I think I know the answer. When I was measuring everything to set up for the router, I discovered that the tabletop is just a little under 3/4 inch, and at the mortise right here, it's just a little more than 5/8 inch thick, and the screws are exactly 5/8 inch long. And I believe they put it in upside down, which holds the screws a little bit higher, because they were worried about a screw punching through the top. I guess that's as good a solution to the problem as any. But since it's underneath the table and nobody can see these screw heads sticking up a little proud, a little crooked, nobody will be concerned about it. Well, this is Bronze Age for the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage. Thank you for sitting through this video on a drop leaf gate leg table. I really appreciate it if you would give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. And any questions or comments are always welcome. I respond to all. Any questions about furniture repair, lighting, lamp repair, or whatever else is on your mind, please feel free to ask. You will get an answer. I can't tell you how good it'll be, but so far most of them have been pretty much on the mark. So again, thank you for watching.